Baldwin, your host for today, and joining me on this edition of the show is the man behind BestFightPicks.com, uh, Daniel Levi, back on the show. Daniel, how's it going?
It's going great, man, and I'm really happy to be able to congratulate you on air for your new gig, man. So props to you, buddy.
Yeah, thanks a bunch. I really appreciate that. And for anyone that doesn't know, I did join the staff list over at bloodyelbow.com. So really excited to be working with some of the best writers in the game over at SB Nation's bloodyelbow.com. So I'm doing a lot of work for them now. Sticking to news, which I like doing the most, but I do my fair share of interviews and whatnot for my podcast. And so I'll do like pieces from interviews, and once in a while I'll do opinions and stuff like that. So it'll be it's really fantastic to be working over at Bloody Elbow. So joining me for the first time on Before the Battle is the man behind OlimpoMMA.com, Matheus Costa, on Before the Battle. Matteo, how's it going?
I'm fine, man. Thanks to having me. Thanks for inviting me. It was a pleasure. And we are looking for this a long time ago. We're chatting about this, but congrats about your entry to bloodyelbow.com, and you deserve it, man. You're a great journalist.
I really appreciate that, for sure. And like you said, we have been trying to get you on either my podcast I do with John King, MMA Junior Radio, or on this, and it's finally happening. I know kind of the issue was your English, but you've worked on that over the past few months and whatnot. And
English is awesome, man.
Exactly. You learn
Oh,
quickly.
thanks,
So.
man. Thanks,
All right, we have a fantastic.
sorry if my English sucks, but we're trying.
Yeah,
No,
for sure.
hey,
No, it's good.
obrigado, hermano.
Now let's not turn this into a Brazilian podcast, because then I'll be sitting here just kind of with question marks above my head. But anyways, we do have a fantastic show. Two really great cards to talk about. Bellator 145, a trilogy matchup between featherweight champion Patricio Pitbull and Daniel Strauss. So before we get to that, I do want to kick things off on the Bellator main card. It's a heavyweight bout between Bobby Lashley and James Thompson. Now, Daniel, give me your thoughts on this matchup. It's a rematch, actually. James Thompson beat him back in, I can't recall what promotion, but he picked up a win over Lashley, and it's been kind of a long time in the making. Lashley looking for revenge against James Thompson.
Yeah, that's actually interesting. I had no idea that Thompson beat him back in the day, but man, you gotta favor Lashley here. You know, obviously neither of these guys are very impressive at all, and you know Thompson. If you read his recent article, I forget if the website you work for put it out or someone else put it out, but man, the dude's been going through some adversity, and now he's back in the cage. It seems to me like he's just fighting for a paycheck. So I'm gonna favor Bobby Lashley to get the victory here.
Mateo, so what about you, Lashley or Thompson?
Lashley all the way, man. Probably a unanimous decision. He's probably picked. And after, you know, he's probably gonna fight Kimbo Slice. But I'm picking Lashley. He's probably getting a unanimous decision.
Yeah, I gotta side with the Bobby Lashley here. I think just since their last fight back a few years ago and whatnot, I think Lashley has improved more than Thompson has. Lots of people give Bobby Lashley he's not a good fighter whatsoever, but he does have somewhat skills now. He's improved. Like he still goes out there and kind of just grinds out these wins, these decisions, but he's gained a bit of skill. I think more than James Thompson has. And for that reason, I do like him to pick up a unanimous decision win. All right, moving on, we have Michael Chandler, the former champion of Bellator, taking on David Rickles. Now, Daniel, who do you like in this matchup?
This is a really good fight, and I think it's going to play out a little bit differently than their first contest did. You know, obviously, the first time they met, Michael Chandler knocked him out in about 44 seconds, but this was the Michael Chandler that, you know, hadn't had those 5-round wars with Will Brooks, with Eddie Alvarez. He was a fresher guy at the time, And since that time, he's been a little bit on the decline, in my personal opinion. And David Rickles, in his last fight, he looked better than ever. But then again, Michael Chandler is a huge step up from John Alessio. So, conventional wisdom would tell you that Michael Chandler is going to win the fight. But I'm going to pull for the caveman Dave Rickles for the huge upset.
Interesting. Now, Matheus, what about you? Chandler or Rickles?
I'm going with Chandler in a tougher fight. I don't think he's gonna knock out Rickles in 44 seconds again, but Chandler is probably the top 3 lightweight in Bellator, and I like him a lot. I think he's a great fighter, and I'm going with Chandler probably in another one. Unanimous decision.
Yeah, I like Chandler here as well, and I kind of faded him in his last fight, and he picked up that win after, of course, losing to the title against Will Brooks again, and I've kind of come to realize that this guy is still relatively legit in the Bellator lightweight division. He still is one of the best fighters signed to the promotion. Yes, Will Brooks beats him, but he still beats mostly everybody, and I think he'll pick up another win here on Saturday night. Now, moving on, we have a featherweight bout between Emmanuel Sanchez and Justin Lawrence. A very interesting bout here. Daniel, who do you like?
This is a very good fight because, Emmanuel Sanchez, he does train with Duke Roufus, and we've been seeing continual improvements in each of his fights. And obviously with Justin Lawrence, he might be the more technical guy, but one thing that he kind of lacks is, that heart. And I don't want to criticize him like that because maybe he does have that heart, but what I've seen is that, if things don't go his way early, he might fold a little bit. But with that being said, he does have the technical prowess to defeat Sanchez. But let's just keep the common themes of the dogs up here. So I'm going to go with Emmanuel Sanchez for the upset.
Interesting, and I don't know a whole lot about either guy, but I've heard a lot of hype surrounding Justin Lawrence. He's 8-2 as a professional. Sanchez is 11-2, so technically you say Sanchez has a better record, but he is filling on short notice for former champion Pat Curran. More times than not, guys filling in on short notice will lose their matchups. Justin Lawrence has been hyped up. Possible next title contender, so I'm going to go with him to pick up a win over Emmanuel Sanchez. Now we have the co-main event of the evening, a lightweight title bout between Will Brooks and Marcin Held. Will Brooks earlier today, missed weight, and then he made weight eventually, and he will retain his title. If he wins and whatnot, he won't be stripped. He made weight at 154.8 pounds. Daniel, who do you like in this lightweight title fight?
And still, I like Will Brooks, man. I think that, this is the kind of kid that he's really in the prime of his career right now. He's getting better every single fight. And all he's got to do here is avoid that leg lock. Now, when you talk about Marcin Held, he's kind of like the Toquinho of the 145-pound division. It's funny because I said that about Ian Entwistle, but the thing with Held is that unlike Toquinho, he will let go of the submission, but I think that, the first round is going to be really close. Then after that, Marcin Held is going to start to get more tired, and Will Brooks is going to take over as the fight goes on. And
Matheus, Brooks or Held to who's going to be the lightweight Bellator champion after Friday night?
Like Daniel said, what Brooks gotta do is to avoid Marcin Held. He's better fighting. He's a better fighter. He keeps improving every single match. But I'm going with Brooks in a TKO in the third round.
I like Will Brooks here as well. There's a little worry for me just because he did initially miss weight. He went on to make weight, so that shouldn't be a huge deal. But it always shows me, even if the guy makes weight on second attempt, that it was a fairly tough weight cut. If you're a champ and can't make that limit, it definitely was a pretty rough weight cut. Not bad enough where he couldn't make weight and went on to be stripped of his title and everything. But that's a bit of an eye opener. And then the whole thing with the scuffle with the Pitbull brothers, I'm a bit worried he may not be 100% focused on his opponent in Martin Held and more on a future fight with Patricio Pitbull. But if none of those things are a big issue, then I think Will Brooks will take the W, probably even by TKO. I wasn't ridiculously impressed in his last outing, but his bouts over Chandler, especially the last one, very impressive stuff. He's still growing as a fighter. He's still getting better each and every day. So, and still from me.
Wait,
All right.
Nick, I'm sorry to interrupt you, buddy, but so Will Brooks missed weight. I had no clue about that. So is he getting stripped, or did he make it on a second attempt?
No, he like I said, he made weight on the second attempt, and I'm 99% sure. Like I'm right. Like all the coverage, all the journalists and whatnot there said he missed weight. Blah blah blah. Bellator results and all that. So he missed weight, and then on second attempt, he made weight. So he's not stripped of the belt. He's if he wins, he's the champ. If he loses, well, obviously not. But yeah, he's not getting stripped. He officially made weight, and all is good. But
Good.
I didn't take a look at the Bellator weigh-in results, but I saw someone tweet out that a ton of people miss weight, which is like it's Bellator, but it's still a little surprising. It's still one of the best promotions out there, and I don't know. The fact that there's so many people missing weight on the card, pretty unprofessional, but what can you do?
I did watch the weightings. I think some 4 or 5 guys didn't make the weight, including Will Brooks. But he made that second. Yes, well, it's normal.
It's normal.
It's Bellator.
Anderson Silva style is normal. All right, moving on. Main event of Bellator 145 Vengeance. We have a trilogy matchup between featherweight champion Patricio Pitbull Freire and Daniel Strauss. Daniel Strauss or Patricio Pitbull to retain?
And no, I don't often pick against guys named Daniel, unless it's Daniel Cormier when he's fighting John Bones Jones, but I'm going with my man Daniel Strauss here. You know, the last time they fought, he was beating up Pitbull, and then at the end, I think it was the 4th round or the 5th round, you know, with 10 seconds left, he got choked out. I don't know what happened, if he had a mental lapse or, you know, if he pulled his groin or what happened. You know, something must have happened there, but I think this time he's going to be focused, and I think he's going to defeat Patricio Pitbull.
Matheus, Pitbull to retain or Daniel Strauss to gain the Bellator championship?
Man, that's a really tough one to pick. I don't even know who to pick because in the last fight, let's be real, Daniel Strauss gave a beating for Patricio, and Patricio didn't look like Patricio used to be, but and Daniel keep improving like in every single match and in every single fight. So maybe I'll be upset. I'm going with Strauss.
All right, I'm going to disagree with both of you. The Brazilian didn't pick the Brazilian, so I'll pick the Brazilian in its place. I'm going Patricio Pitbull to finish off this trilogy and remain the Bellator featherweight champion. Daniel Strauss, I just can never trust this guy unless he's fighting like just not a contender really. When he's fighting guys, some of the best in the world, he has mental lapses, like Daniel said. He had the same thing in his Pitbull fight last time around, and he was winning that fight also. I don't know. I just can't trust a guy that has mental lapses like that. Like, I'd like to think that he's kind of over that. He's focused. He's confident and all that, but you just can never know. Pitbull is one scary guy, and it's been strange. The past 2 or 3 fights for him, he's been losing, and then capitalizes on someone's mistakes or whatever, or lands just a lucky punch, whatever you want to call it, and remains the champion. So I'm kind of banking on him to maybe even finish Strauss, but like I mentioned, He's focused on Will Brooks also. All that controversy, that scuffle earlier, I believe yesterday or the day before. So you never know. Same thing with Will Brooks. He might get upset as well because he's too worried about a future fight with Pitbull and not on what's happening tomorrow night. So that is all I really care to talk about Bellator. Now moving on, we have UFC Fight Night 77, and this is a very, very fun Fight Night card. We don't get fantastic Fight Night cards often, if ever, and for Brazil, this is an amazing Fight Night card actually. Brazil, you guys haven't been getting the best of the best cards lately. You got Damian Maia versus Ryan LaFleur. And that wasn't a fantastic card whatsoever. Before that, you got Bigfoot Mir, which ended up being a fun card because there was like 10 out of 12 upsets or something like that. That was interesting, but that wasn't a stack card, kind of same old Brazilian card. You have UFC 179 last year. Aldo Mendes, great headliner, but not a really pay-per-view worthy card. So it's about time you guys get a good Fight Night card and hopefully a good pay-per-view card next year. But we do have UFC Fight Night Sao Paulo this weekend, and like I mentioned, there are fantastic fights top to bottom. So we don't do this often, but I want to start out on the Fight Pass early prelims. One fight from there, Pedro Munhoz taking on Jimmy Rivera. A very fun bantamweight matchup. Pedro is a 12-1. Jimmy Rivera is 17-1. Very intriguing bantamweight matchup here. Matheus, who do you like?
Pedro Munhoz. I'm going with Pedro. He's a fantastic fighter. I really like him a lot. He's one of my top prospects today in the UFC, and I'm picking him. But this will be a fantastic fight. A really contender to the fight of the night. Trust me. But I'm picking Pedro. Another submission.
Interesting. Now, Daniel, a Pedro Munhoz or a Jimmy Rivera?
This is a really good fight, and on paper, this could be one of the closest fights of the night. You got 17-1 Jimmy Rivera taking on 11-1 Pedro Munhoz, and Pedro, prior to his last fight against Gerald Sanders, a lot of us were saying that this kid could be a future UFC world champion, but he's had over a year suspension. We haven't seen what he's been doing lately. Maybe he's been training really hard, or maybe he's been finding new ways to maybe he's been finding a new strength and conditioning regimen. Who knows what the deal is? We got to see what happens when he steps inside the octagon. I'm going to favor Jimmy Rivera just because I'm going to go against the grain here, but you can't count out a guy like Pedro Munhoz. He's as tough as they come.
Yeah, I got to side with Jimmy Rivera here as well. He's a slight underdog, I believe, but this guy really impressed me in his debut against Marcus Brimage. Picked up a first-round TKO win, and really impressive stuff in his UFC debut. You could not see any octagon jitters or anything like that. This guy is very confident. Pedro Munhoz, he's been out for a really long time, since early October of 2014, and that was due to a failed drug test, post-fight drug test. It was it was under the radar for a while, and then kind of some sites reported not too long ago that this guy, the reason he's been out for so long here, he failed this drug test for banned substances, and it was a bit weird with the commission and all that, but that is why he's been out for a while. And with the new drug testing rules implemented, it will be interesting to see him at the weigh-ins. But for that reason, and even if he wasn't coming off a failed drug test and all this, I would have sided with Jimmy Rivera here. I think he gets it done, and there is a chance he stops Pedro Munhoz. But if I have to pick, I'm going Rivera, probably by decision. All right, opening up the Fox Sports 1 prelims, a very interesting featherweight match between Kevin Souza and Chas the Scrapper Skelly. Now, Daniel, I know you're a big fan of Chas Skelly. You had him on your show, Half the Battle, not too long ago. You're also very high on Kevin Souza. So who do you like in this matchup?
This is a really good fight. I mean, Kevin Souza, he's very light on his feet and uses that range real well. And if he lands that right hand, chances are you're going to be in big trouble because Kevin Souza hits very hard. But when you talk about Chas the Scrapper Skelly, he's as relentless as they come. Just imagine a very polished up version of Darren Elkins, because I mean, Chaz the Scrapper Skelly, yes, he can grind you, but if things don't, if Kevin Souza stuffs a couple takedowns, Chaz is going to be fine on his feet too. He's got knockout power. So just for the sole fact that he has more tools to win the fight, I'm going to favor Chaz the Scrapper Skelly here.
Interesting. Now, Matheus, who do you like, Chaz Skelly or Kevin Souza?
Chaz Skelly. Kevin is a good fighter. He has a great box. But man, his ground sucks. I can say that. I really can say that. He don't have wrestling. I don't know if he has some jiu-jitsu, but Chaz Skelly is a good fighter. I really like him, and I'm picking by an unanimous decision. Probably he's gonna take down a lot.
Interesting. Now, I'm going to go against you guys again. I'm going to go with Kevin Souza here. Chaz Skelly, I have a lot of respect for the scrapper. He really surprised me when he stepped up on short notice back last year. Took 2 fights in 2 weeks. That was really amazing to see, and he won both, so that was fantastic. I think he broke that record. Now that I think about it, I think Chris Lieben actually held that record. Instead of 14 days, it was 13, so came close enough in my books. But
yes.
Chaz broke the record and said it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Anyways, Kevin Souza, I've been really, really high on this guy for a really long time. Chaz Skelly is very good. Like, he can definitely take Kevin Souza down, grind him out, possibly pick up a submission, a dominant decision, something like that. But I'm kind of banking on Kevin Souza's punching power. He is fantastic striking to keep him in this fight here. I think he'll be able to keep it standing for at least a little while. If it goes into second round or third round, I think it's Chaz Skelly's fight all day. But I'm kind of banking on Kevin Souza finishing Chaz the Scrapper Skelly in the first round via TKO, and yeah, that's my prediction. All right, moving on.
It's worth to say that Kevin has a great KO power. His hands are very heavy, man.
Who is that, Kevin Souza or Chaz? Because I know Souza is fantastic strike. Yeah, Chaz though he's been improving his boxing as well, but his ground game is where it's at. But I don't know if he'll be able to use it in this fight. And I think Souza will be able to possibly keep it standing and pick up that knockout win. All right, moving on, we have a featherweight matchup between the Carpenter Guida and Thiago Tavares. Now, Matheus, are you going to finally go for a Brazilian here, or are you going with the veteran in Guida?
Another tough one to pick, man. But I'm going with the Brazilian, finally. I like Thiago. I love Clay Guida. Who don't love Clay Guida? Clay Guida is a legend. But I'm picking Thiago for I believe in his jiu-jitsu, and I believe he's gonna submit Clay Guida. I believe that's the second or third fight that I ever pick against Clay Guida, but that's it. I'm going with Thiago.
All right, Daniel, Guida or Thiago Tavares, who you got?
If Thiago Tavares wins, he will win via submission, like Matheus said. But I think that, the Carpenter is going to be a little bit too relentless. And even though Thiago Tavares is the more technical guy on paper, sometimes it's not about who's the more technical guy. Sometimes it's about who wants it more. And I think that Clay Guida wants it more. And historically speaking, every single time that Thiago Tavares has fought a grappler, he's gotten knocked out. So I'm not saying that Guida's going to knock him out, but I am saying that Guida's going to get the victory here.
I was really high on Thiago Tavares when he demolished Robbie Peralta, because I was also pretty high on Peralta, so that kind of derailed Robbie Peralta there. And then Thiago Tavares goes out and loses to Brian Ortega. And don't get me wrong, Brian Ortega, you and me, Daniel, both think this. He is a very fun fighter, very good fighter, possible top 10, top 5 even opponent in the future. He has big things ahead of him. Thiago Tavares gave him a fight, but Clay Guida, he has a style where he can outgrind and outwrestle just about anybody. Yes, he has been submitted plenty of times. Recently against Dennis Bermudez back in July of 2014. Thiago Tavares, though, I don't know if he'll be able to grab onto either Guida's neck or a limb or whatever and tap him out. But if he does, that'd be huge in Brazil. But I'm leaning towards Guida, but it is a very close fight. But if I have to pick, I'm going Guida by a fairly dominant unanimous decision, just because if Guida wins, usually it's not a ridiculously close fight because he often is able to out wrestle his opponents. All right, moving on, we have another interesting matchup between Jan Cabral and Johnny Case. Daniel, who do you like in this matchup?
I like Hollywood Case. And I'll tell you why, man. I think that he just has more tools to win. You know, he's often criticized for the fact that he gets taken down a lot, but one thing I do like about him is when he does get taken down, it's not like he's content to lay on his back like Jan Cabral. You know, Johnny Case will get back up to his feet. And the thing with Jan Cabral is, yes, he does have very good jiu-jitsu, but it's not like Gilbert Durinho Burns where he's got a very good blast double. He's got good wrestling to set up the jiu-jitsu. With Jan Cabral, he's the kind of guy that that'll pull guard and he's content to lay on his back, and that's not the kind of thing I like to see in mixed martial arts. So I got Johnny Hollywood Case.
Yeah, for sure. Now, Teos, who do you like, Case or Cabral?
Case. I'm going with Case. Like Daniel said, Jan Cabral has a good jiu-jitsu, but his wrestling isn't good. So Case will probably keep this fight on the feet, and I'm betting on the knockout. Probably one round, the first round.
Yeah, I like Johnny Case here as well. I think he gets it done inside the distance. Jan Cabral, yes, he can take Case down and lock up a submission. He's very good at doing so, as we all know. Johnny Case has pretty good takedown defense from what I know. He has spectacular volume. He has spectacular punching power. Jan Cabral has also been out for a little while, I think a year or more. Honestly, he doesn't have the most impressive wins inside the UFC. Just taking a look at his record right now, he has that win over David Mitchell, and David Mitchell, he's not in UFC anymore. Then he lost to Zach Cummings. And his last fight, October 25th, UFC 179, and that was a submission win over Naoyuki Kotani. Now, I'm like, who is that, honestly? So, this hasn't beat the best of the best, far from it. So I got to go with Hollywood Case here. He's been very impressive in the UFC, picked up all stoppage wins, and I think he'll continue that train in this preliminary fight. All right, headlining the prelims is a very interesting lightweight matchup. Gleison Tibau taking on Abel Trujillo. Matheus, who do you like in this matchup?
I'm not excited for this fight, but I'm going with Tibau. He's probably gonna work with his wrestling, put Trujillo down. That is not a difficult. It's not hard to put Trujillo down, but maybe a submission, man. But I'm going Tibau. But if Trujillo can keep this fight on the feet, he's probably knock out Tibau. But I'm going with Tibau. I like his wrestling.
Yeah, for sure. He wins a lot of fights by just doing what he does the best, grinding out his opponents. Daniel, Trujillo or the veteran in Tibau?
I'm excited for this fight because, I mean, anytime Abel Trujillo fights, you know there's a chance that someone's going to get knocked out. Now, with Tibau, man, he's your prototypical grinder. He knows how to win these close decisions. But I think that what's interesting about this fight is that both these guys are criticized for their cardio, but I think that Abel Trujillo is going to have a little bit more in the tank than Gleison Tibau. And as my friend Mateo would say, I think Abel Trujillo is going to knock out Gleison Tibau.
Yeah, it's an interesting fight. It's very close. Abel Trujillo is a very, very, very fun fighter. Gleison Tibau is not really a very fun fighter. He does what he does well. Don't take that away from him. He grinds out his opponents very well. He does it impressively if you're looking at that side of things. But if you're looking at excitement-wise, he just isn't that exciting at this age and level and everything. Um, so I'm excited for this fight. I think it could be a very good fight, but I'm worried that Tibau will be able to grind out Abel Trujillo. And one thing I want to point out is I was shocked when I saw they were both 32 years old. Now, I knew Trujillo wasn't like 25 years old, but Gleason Tibau, this is Gleason Tibau we're talking about. This guy has like 50 fights, 40 fights, something like that. Abel Trujillo has 19 fights. Fight years wise, Abel Trio is a lot younger, but that is very surprising when I saw. I looked it up just the other day, and it blew my mind when I read that they're both 32 years old. But to the matchup, Gleason Tebow, he's taken a lot of punishment. He's been hit pretty hard in his career, and eventually his chin will kind of fail him. He's gonna he's going to eventually get brutally knocked out. One way or another, it's going to happen. It might surprise people. It might not. It's going to happen. And Abel Trujillo, this guy, he punches pretty hard. And so this might be his biggest win of his career. This might be Tebow's time to finally hang up the gloves. And this might be kind of the time when Tebow's fairly durable chin turns to not durable at all. It's a close fight because Tebow can do what he does best. Like I've said, he can grind out Abel Trujillo. But I'm going with Trujillo by knockout, probably in the first round, because his cardio isn't the best. But I do want to say I interviewed him just a couple days ago, and he told me that for his last fight against Tony Ferguson last December, he didn't spar at all. And he told me that he had the conditioning for that fight in that fight, but he didn't have sparring conditioning, which basically he says is very important in a fight. Now he's sparring the whole camp. He sparred a lot. He has both conditionings really that a fighter needs. He has the sparring conditioning that he didn't have. So I'm going to take his word for it and say his cardio will be pretty good in this fight. It won't be spectacular because you can't you can't change your cardio so much. But I think it'll be a bit better, and I think he gets a win on a Saturday night. Now moving on, we have the opening fight on the main card. Fabio Maldonado taking on Corey Anderson in a pretty important light heavyweight matchup. Anderson looking for his biggest win of his career, and Maldonado is looking to get back into the winning column against Beeson 25-8. Now, Daniel, are you going with Fabio Maldonado to pick up the upset? Actually, I'm surprised how big of a favorite Anderson is, right around, I want to say minus 400. Correct me if I'm wrong, but now I'm just looking at minus 500. That's insane. But Fabio Maldonado, Daniel, or Corey Beeson 25-8, Anderson.
I think Fabio Maldonado is going to get beasted 25-8. I think that Corey Anderson, even though he did have that roadblock against Jean Vellante, oftentimes with these undefeated prospects, they need that first loss to make the proper adjustments and take things to that next level. And, obviously he's working with Mark Henry. If you know about Mark Henry, this guy produced Frankie the Answer Edgar. So Corey Anderson's in very good hands. And when you talk about Maldonado, yeah, he's very tough. He's very exciting most of the time, but usually when he wins fights is when he starts teeing off on a stationary target, and Beastin 25-8 is not about to be a stationary target. So I got Corey for the victory here.
All right, Matheus, Corey Anderson or Fabio Maldonado, the Brazilian? Matheus?
So, I really like this match. I really like this fight. It's going to be one of the best of the night. And I'm picking Corey Anderson. And that's why. I really like Fabio Maldonado. He's tough. He has a great boxing. He's working hard at his wrestling. Man, he takes down Rampage. I tough and man, Fabio Maldonado takes down somebody. That's scary. But I'm going with Anderson. I think Anderson will put him down and work in his round. Maybe I don't bet on a TKO victory. but I'm going with Henderson. Probably an unanimous decision.
Yeah, you said it completely how I would as well. Corey Anderson, this guy will be able to grind out Fabio Maldonado for 3 rounds. Actually, thank God it's not a 5 rounder. I almost said 5 rounds, but I think Beeston 25-8 should get the job done here. Fabio Maldonado really doesn't have all that much off his back. He's a boxer. He's oftentimes put up against boxers, and when he isn't, he loses. And that's
Yes,
what's going to
yes.
happen. That's what's going to happen on Saturday night when he takes on the young Corey Anderson. There's a 9-year age difference, unlike Gleason Tebow and Abel Trujillo, like we would have expected. But Corey Anderson, he won the Ultimate Fighter, which really doesn't mean a whole lot nowadays for a reason. He is a talented 205-pound prospect. He should get the job done here, probably by decision. All right, moving on, we have a very interesting lightweight matchup between Gilbert Burns and Rashid Magomedov. Now, Daniel, I know lots of people are saying this is their fight of the night, best fight on the card. I know I was listening to Half the Battle earlier tonight with Robin Black, yourself, and Pat Wyman, and Robin, and I believe Pat as well, saying this was their fight to watch and everything like that. Daniel, Burns or Magomedov?
Rashid Magomedov. I think that Rashid, he's one of these next level strikers, and I don't think he's really gotten a chance to fully display what he's capable of yet. And I think that this is going to be the chance for him to do that, because with Gilbert Durinho Burns, obviously he's a jiu-jitsu world champion, and one thing I actually like about his game a lot, like we were briefly alluding to earlier, is that he does have the takedowns to set up his jiu-jitsu. And with a lot of guys like Jan Cabral, he'll pull guard, but Durinho Burns will take you down straight up. So that's one thing that's going in his favor. But I think that Rashid Magomedov is just going to pick him apart. And we saw in that Alex Cowboy Oliveira fight that Durinho Burns doesn't like getting hit that much. Not that anyone likes getting hit, but Durinho, he wasn't about the stand-up at all. And you can't not be about the stand-up when you fight Rashid Magomedov, so I got Rashid all day.
And Matheus, are you going with the Brazilian Gilbert Burns or Rashid Magomedov?
I'm picking Rashid Magomedov. Man, I like Durinho. I like Gilbert. He's a outstanding jiu-jitsu fighter, but his striking isn't good. Like Daniel said, in that Alex Cowboy Oliveira fight, he almost getting knocked out. For a fighter who gets the fight with 2 weeks notice, I don't know. But all credits go to Cowboy, of course. But like Daniel said, Gil was perfect. Gilbert don't like to get punched, so Magomedov will probably knock it out.
Interesting. Now, I'm going to go against you guys again. And this is a risky move, but I think
I'm thinking Nick doesn't like this.
Exactly. I say it all the time. When Go Paulo is usually on before the battle. I like going against you guys. Why not? And more than half of the time I lose, you guys win. But hopefully that changes for UFC Sao Paulo. And but I'm going with Gilbert Burns, and ever since I saw this guy, I believe I probably have seen him since his debut not too long ago. I've been really impressed. But there's been one fight that didn't impress me whatsoever, and that was, of course, his last fight with Alex Oliveira, who fights later on in this card, actually, surprisingly. I don't know, like he did not look good whatsoever. He pulled off that late third-round submission armbar where he really got beat pretty clearly for 2.5 rounds, and then pulled off that miracle come from behind victory. And Alex Cowboy's, I almost said Cerrone, Oliveira, more or less just made a mistake and whatnot. UFC debut and everything, can't blame him for that. But I don't know, Burns, very impressive. Not so much in his last fight. Rashid Magomedov, though, he's been out for a really long time. One thing that worries me, though, His stand-up is a lot better than Burns's. Burns' ground game is better, but I think Rashid may have more ways to win, possibly because his ground game is still pretty good, where Burns' stand-up game, unless he's improved it over the past few months, isn't good really whatsoever. But I'm still going with my gut instinct. I've picked him from the beginning, from this fight was announced. I'm going with Gilbert Burns for the upset, probably by decision. All right, moving on, we have Alex Cowboy Cerrone. Alex Cowboy Oliveira. There we go, against Piotr Hallman, and it is a lightweight matchup. Alex Oliveira actually he used to fight. He was up at 170 for one or two fights. That fight over KJ Noons, and I think his last fight over Joe Merritt was back down to lightweight. But I just want to say that I really liked Oliveira at welterweight. I think he's better there, possibly due to a weight cut, easier weight cut. But he's chosen. He's down at lightweight. That's where he was when he made his debut. He just stepped up, kind of to fill in on short notice. But he's a very interesting fighter, a action fighter. Piotr Hallman. He's coming off a few losses. So Daniel, Piotr Hallman or Alex Cowboy Oliveira?
This is a really good fight too, man. And the thing with Piotr Hallman is he's got those variables that you can't really measure, like the fact that he's very unathletic, but he's got heart for days. And oftentimes he loses that first round, but he knows how to come back in the second, the third round and get the victory. But Alex Cowboy, he's been very impressive since he made his UFC debut, and he's been getting better in every area of the game. So I do have to favor Alex Cowboy on paper, but Piotr Hallman's very tough, but I do think Alex Cowboy will prevail.
Yeah, Matheus, are you going with the Brazilian this time, the wannabe Cowboy Cerrone?
I'm going with the Brazilian, man. I'm picking Cowboy for this one. I really like Cerrone, but I like Oliveira too. Yeah, I like a lot Alex Oliveira. He's impressing at his debut. He's coming off some victories. He has a good ground game. His striking is so good. I really like his striking. And Hallman is a tough fighter. He had a good chin, but man, I don't think he can stand by Cowboy. So I'm picking Cowboy for this one. Probably unanimous decision or submission.
I like Alex Cowboy Oliveira here as well. I think he's just really better than Hallman everywhere. I really haven't been a whole lot impressed with Hallman lately. One thing going for him is he's very tough. He's tough to finish. So Oliveira, I still think he probably wins the decision, but he could submit him. But that is maybe unlikely, just because Hallman is very tough and whatnot. He's very durable, but anyone can get submitted, of course. Even Gleason Tebow, as someone would say, probably very durable fighter, can still get choked out pretty easily by Tony Ferguson. Then again, Tony Ferguson is not Alex Oliveira by any means, but Oliveira, I think he wins this fight. But I do want to say it's a lot closer than the odds say. He's right around a 2-1 favorite, and that really surprised me. Which is, I think he's right around minus 200, which isn't too bad. But I saw him at one point right around minus 350 to 400, and that was really outrageous. You can't count out Piotr Hallman really ever. He's not the most skillful fighter, but just his toughness by itself will win him fights depending on his opponent. But I do got to go with Brazilian here, probably by decision. All right, moving on. We have a amazing bantamweight matchup. Thomas Almeida taking on Anthony Burchak, two of the top bantamweight prospects colliding in hopes to crack into the top 10-ish, higher of the top 10 at 135. Daniel, I know you're very excited for this fight, as am I. Probably the best fight on the card stylistically. Who do you like in this matchup?
This is such a good fight, Nick. And I've gone on record many times saying that Thomas Almeida is a future UFC world champion. But I think with every champion, they need that first roadblock to make the proper adjustments and get to where they need to go. So I'm going to be very bold here, and I'm going to pick Anthony Burchak for the huge upset in Brazil.
Interesting. Are you worried at all with that pick with Almeida being 20-0? All the momentum in the world. He's never lost a fight. He doesn't know how to lose a fight right now. Um,
Of
and
course,
it's in Brazil.
Of course. I mean, there's a reason I said that I think Tomas Almeida is a future champion because, I mean, his striking is incredible. He's just really amazing, and I wouldn't be surprised if he beat Burchak, but I think that Burchak has the style to win this fight. You know, I think that if he hits him on the chin, kind of like Pickett did, I don't think it's going to be a situation where Almeida gets back up. I think that Burchak hits super hard, and his wrestling background, you know, that's going to come into play as well. Now, the thing with Almeida, a lot of people are like, oh, Brad Pickett almost knocked him out, and I disagree with that completely because just because he got dropped doesn't mean that he was almost out. He got right back up and he was smiling. He's like, come on, man, let's fight. You know, but there's other guys that get dropped and you're like, oh, shit, this guy's broken. He doesn't want to fight anymore. Not Tomas Almeida. If you want to beat Tomas Almeida, you have to finish him. And Burchak's a finisher, so I'm going to pick him, but I mean, it's not like I'm telling anyone to, you know, put their bank account on it. It's just a bold pick here.
How long do you think, because you still said Tomas Almeida could be a future champion, will be a future champion, how long do you think it takes him to rebound if he loses, like you're saying, to Anthony Burchak? Do you think he gets back into winning column right away, right back on his route to UFC bantamweight gold?
If he loses to Anthony Burchak, you know, chances are that he wins because he's so amazing. But if he loses this fight, I just think that he's going to come back even better than ever. No matter what happens, win or lose, he's going to be better than ever. But if he does lose, I don't think that that's going to hinder him one bit. I think it's just going to teach him, you know, some adjustments he needs to make in his game to come back a better man.
For sure. Now, Matheus, do you like Tomas Almeida, the Brazilian, or Anthony Burchak in this pivotal bantamweight matchup?
So I do pick Tomas Almeida for this one. He's a great fighter, man. He's a great prospect. Like I really like Thomas. He's an outstanding Muay Thai fighter. He's from the Shooty Box school. So man, I like Bishak too. He's a great wrestler, and he will put Thomas down. It's a fact. I think he will take down Thomas, but Thomas do have a great jiu-jitsu game to make. So, man, I'm going with the Brazilian. Thomas has a great hype behind him right now here in Brazil. He's looking like a future star. So, man, I pick Thomas. He will win this one, but he will a great. These two will make a great fighter.
Yeah, I like Tomas Almeida here as well. Anthony Burchak is a very cool guy. Had him on my podcast, and even if he loses this, and that's a big if because he still has a good chance of winning this. If he loses this, he'll still come back and rebound successfully, and probably will be a top 10 guy in the bantamweight division. But Tomas Almeida right now, I think, is just on a different level. This guy, I actually picked against him. Now, I'm almost embarrassed to say this, but I picked against him against Yves Jabouin. And I saw that fight, and I was like, okay, now, what the hell did I just do? Tomas Almeida is legit. Yves Jabouin this guy is done, honestly. Ever since then, though, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm not picking against Almeida unless it's like against TJ Dillashaw or something like that, or one of the best bantamweights on the planet. But Tomas Almeida, his striking is just so crisp. But he's a wild fighter. He's technical but wild at the same time. So Anthony Burchak can capitalize early on when he's more likely to get hit. Anthony Burchak, he has improving striking, improving it every single day. His ground game is improving, and I'm not really too sure what to expect if Almeida gets taken down or something like that. So, like, honestly, Burchak, he has good striking as well, but he could take Almeida down and even grind out a decision, which would can it be disappointing just because this has the potential to be a very fun fight? And I think it will play out to be a fun fight if it goes past a few minutes and all that, of course. And honestly, I'm not too sure it does. I think Thomas Almeida finishes it relatively quick. But either way, both these guys are the future of the bantamweight division. You can't not say that. And both these guys have bright futures. But right now, I gotta go with the Brazilian here by TKO. All right, and moving on, the co-main event of the evening, we have Glover Teixeira, the former light heavyweight title challenger, taking on Patrick Cummins, who maybe doesn't want to be called the former coffee barista, but that's exactly what he is. So, Glover or Patrick Cummins, Mateo?
Another tough one to pick, man, but I'm going with Glover. I think his takedown defense will make the difference in this fight. He's showed great against Ovin Sampru. He's got what it takes to be a top five at light heavyweight, and I really like Patrick Cummins, but I don't think he's at Glover's level. So I'm going with the Brazilian. Probably Glover will knock him out.
All right, Daniel, do you like Glover Teixeira here or Patrick Cummins?
This is a really tough fight to call. On paper, the odds have it as, almost a mismatch. They're saying that Glover's going to run through Pat. And I understand what they're saying. Glover, he's fought the better level of competition, and he's beat the better level of competition. But style-wise, it's very interesting because Glover, he takes guys down a lot. I don't think he's going to take down the Olympic wrestler. And on the feet, it's not like he, uses his jab and, picks you apart and throws leg kicks. He's the kind of guy that'll counter you and knock you out. But I don't think that Patrick Cummins is going to stand with Glover Teixeira. I think he's going to try to take him down over and over. So either, Patrick Cummins grinds him out or gets a late stoppage, or Glover catches him, somewhere along the way. It's just a matter of what you favor. And when you see once you're old enough to gamble and you see those odds at plus 400 on Patrick Cummins, I don't know, man. I think it's worth a shot on the dog.
Honestly, I tend to agree with you. I don't think that plus 400 money is worth a shot. Like, yes, he could grind out Glover. There is that slim possibility, but I think it's slim, and I'm surprised that there's the amount of people picking Patrick Cummins against Glover is as high as it is. I just get this feeling that people are higher than they should be on Patrick Cummins, and they underrate Glover. Glover is for sure underrated ever since he lost to John Jones and lost to Phil Davis. And yes, that Phil Davis fight was very devastating for him. I didn't think he would come back the way he did against OSP and choke him out in the third round. I picked OSP in that fight. I like Glover a lot as a fighter. I'm very high on him. Not as high as I was before, like John Jones and Phil Davis and everything like that. But Phil Davis is a better wrestler than Patrick Cummins. I don't see Patrick Cummins grinding out Glover Teixeira over the course of 3 rounds and picking up a decision, his biggest win of his career. I think maybe he can get Glover down once. That's a big if for me, though. Anyways, personally, I don't think he'll be able to take Glover down. I think Glover will be able to keep it on the feet where he wants it, and Patrick Cummins doesn't have a great chin at all. He got knocked out pretty easily against OSP, which really there's no shame in doing that because OSP is definitely a top 10 fighter in the 205-pound division. But just something about Cummins getting knocked out fairly easily. I don't think he has the best chin in the world. I think other people think that Glover Teixeira has very hard punching power, and I think he gets a knocked out victory here. But if Cummins is able to grind it out and win a decision, that would be huge for him, and you'd have to consider him a contender and all that because Glover is one of the best fighters in the light heavyweight division. All right. Moving on, main event, UFC Fight Night 77, a trilogy matchup between what was it, Daniel? The old dinosaur and the old lion or something like that?
Yeah, the old lion, young dinosaur.
Oh, there we go, young dinosaur. Yeah, so Dan Hendo Henderson and Vitor the Phenom Belfort, who really isn't a phenom anymore, but he used to be. Vitor blank Belfort taking on Dan Hendo Henderson. The fight between who has the most gas in the tank. Both of their tanks have less than 10% of gas. But it all comes down to, does Vitor Belfort win fights off of TRT and whatever else he was taking? He lost to Chris Weidman in his return. There's no shame in doing that. But now he's fighting Dan Hendo Henderson. And Dan Hendo Henderson, this guy is 45 years old. He ultimately, he probably shouldn't be fighting anymore. Simply because he is 45 years old. Like, that's insane. Um, but he somehow wins fights, but against Tim Bosch. It's like Tim Bosch, I don't know, he's not, let's just say he's not fantastic by any means, and his game plan, it seemed, going into that Hendo fight was a little odd, kind of rushing, and then he just got knocked out pretty cleanly. Anyways, though, Daniel, last fight on the card, who wraps up the trilogy successfully, Vitor Belfort or Dan Henderson?
You know, if you would have asked me 2 years ago if they were going to book the trilogy, I would have said you were crazy. But here we are, UFC Sao Paulo, and they're finally going to meet in the main event. And I think that, you know, as you get older, your speed starts to diminish. But power is the last thing to go. And, you know, Vitor has always been known for his incredible speed, but now he's getting older, so for sure he's getting slower. Now with Dan Henderson, yes, he is 45 years old, but I mean, he still I mean, if he hits you on the chin with that right hand, you're going down. I don't care if he's 60 years old. Power is the last thing to go, and I think Vitor's slowing down, so I got Dan Hendo with the big upset.
All right, Matheus, you got Dan Hendo Henderson, the MMA legend, or the former phenom Vitor Belfort?
I'm picking Belfort, but I'm picking Belfort to retire. I'm going for Hendo. And as you know, Belfort is the same. Belfort isn't the same. He's a totally different fighter. He now looks like a welterweight. So man, I'm going for Hendo all the way, man. I think it should be a good fight for the first 2 minutes because, like Belfort fought Weidman, man, that doesn't look like before, like the great Phenom. So man, I'm picking Hendo. So like the old fashioned AG bomb, first round TKO. But I don't think this will be such a good, huge upset. You know, after the Weidman fight, the Brazilian people doesn't trust so that much in Belfort anymore. So man, and I think if Belfort do loses Saturday night, he will retire. He will retire, but he could win. You know, like you said, Henderson is a 44 years old, 45 now, 45
Yeah.
years old fighter, and he's not the same too. But man, he's murderer Tim Bolt, but he's still got that right hand that could kill a man. So man, so I'm picking. I'm serious. I'm picking the Henderson.
Yeah, this is a fight. I'm gonna not steal a direct quote from Ron Black on Half the Battle, but I'm gonna basically say what he said. This is a fight between who who's the worst at this point in their career. It's not a fight based on their technical ability anymore. This is all the controversy surrounding them. This is there's so many factors going into this fight, not necessarily technically, which is interesting. Um, Vitor Belfort, how do I say this? Yes, he gets killed by Chris Weidman. Chris Weidman is champion, so there's no really shame in doing that. But he did get murdered by Chris Weidman, literally. Um, he got demolished in the first round. He had his moment, and literally just a moment. A split second, he did his blitz at, like, it was kind of a blitz. He had Chris up against the fence, looked like maybe he could knock him out. Weidman is durable, lucky enough for him, and then took down Belfort and got that ground and pound TKO win. Um, Dan Henderson. How can you not like Dan Henderson? But how can you not say it is time for him to retire? It's probably also time for Vitor Belfort to retire. And if Hendo knocks him out with an H-bomb on Saturday night, like Matteo said, I think Vitor Belfort will probably retire because really there's nothing left for him, no fights left, and ultimately he's at that point where he should retire. Dan Henderson, I don't know if he's going to retire either way. He's already said he's going to fight again after Vitor Belfort, and I probably believe him because he said that after the Giga Musasi fight. He said that after DC. He said that after Shogun. He said that after Tim Bosch. So I don't think this will be Hendo's last fight. There's just so much controversy surrounding Vitor right now. He's not the same fighter. That's something we know. Body type, he's basically a welterweight, or like I said, maybe even a lightweight. But there's also controversy outside the cage, not necessarily him specifically, physically and all that as a fighter, but that stuff where leaving the Black Brazilians fairly recently, now training out of his own gym with who? I don't know. Probably no one. So that's not good. That's not a good sign, at least. Glover trained out of his garage and then beat up OSP, I think. So maybe it'll work, but I don't think it will. Again, there's the whole article, possibly failed a drug test before the John Jones fight, emails stand out, blah, 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 all that controversy. So there's been so much stuff surrounding him right now, even the latest not going on the MMA Hour because he didn't want to answer the questions about that article. With all that said, I am picking Vitor Belfort to finish Dan Henderson simply because Vitor Belfort right now loses to the top 5 fighters in the middleweight division. But Dan Henderson is not a top 5 fighter in the middleweight division. Dan Henderson has nothing left in the tank except for his lucky H-bomb, which could land on Saturday night, and I will go wild if it does. But Vitor Belfort has a little bit, not much, but a little bit left in the tank. He has a bit more than Dan Henderson, and I think he gets the job done on Saturday night, probably actually by TKO. And I should note that if this goes past the first or second round, I'm probably just going to turn my TV off. All right, I think that does it for UFC Fight Night Sao Paulo. Daniel, before we quickly read out our Kountermove teams and wrap this show up, do you want to mention anything else about a fight we've already talked about, a fight we didn't talk about, anything like that? Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the fans got to tune in because it's going to be such an exciting card. I mean, you got the up-and-coming prospects, you got future champions, you got the legends battling it out in the main event. So I truly believe that UFC Sao Paulo has something for everyone. So tune in to Fox Sports 1 on Saturday night.
Matheus, any last word about either Bellator 145, which goes down tomorrow, or, of course, UFC Fight Night 77 from Brazil? Anything else to add before we wrap this up?
Yes. I gotta say about I wanna talk about Dan Henderson. Like you said, you do expect him to retire if he loses to Vitor. I can guarantee that this is not happening.
No, I said I don't think he'll retire. I said he won't retire.
Oh yes. So sorry, but I do interview his BJJ coach, the Brazilian one, Ricardo Feliciano. He's the head coach from Team Quest and he talked with me. Even that Dana White cut Dan Henderson for some reason that Dan Henderson wanted still fighting, rising the new pride rising wants him to fight, and I should expect if there's some problem, if Dana White wants him to retire and he doesn't give a damn. I do expect Henderson still fighting, probably new rising or even at Bellator. So about the cards, if you're an MMA fan, not UFC fan, you want to still you want to watch the Bellator card, watch. It's my tip. Watch. And UFC event, it's a good one too. Probably the best card, the best Brazilian card in some time. But man, this weekend is gonna be crazy. Like I'm excited for this. Great fights, great fighters, and two legends battling in the main event of the UFC São Paulo. So tune in on Fox Sports One.
Yeah, for sure. Like Daniel said earlier on, 2 years ago, if they scheduled this trilogy, I'd be like, what? But now it's like, yeah, they're not winning the title anytime soon. They're basically done. So yeah, why not cap off a trilogy fight between Vitor Belfort and Dan the Man, Dan Hendo Henderson. So, Daniel, quickly read out your five fighters on your Kountermove.com team.
I got Abel Trujillo, Rashid Magomedov, Chas Skelly, Johnny Case, and Corey Beeson 25-8.
All right, I have Glover Teixeira to pick up a knockout victory over Patrick Cummins. I got Abel Trujillo to TKO or knockout Gleason Tebow. I got Kevin Souza to finish Shasta Scrapper Skelly. I got Corey Anderson to grind out and pick up a bunch of points by decision over Fabio Maldonado. And I got Thomas Almeida to finish Anthony Burchak. Now, I'd like to thank both of you guys for coming on this 14th edition of Before the Battle. I really, really appreciate that, of course. And Daniel, let everyone know where we can find you on social media and of anything coming up with your website, your Twitter, your betting, anything else. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks to everyone that tuned in. Truly appreciate it. Find me at Twitter, at Best Fight Picks. Go to bestfightpicks.com. And, to find my show, Half the Battle, all you got to do is, go to soundcloud.com/bestfightpicks, or if you go to YouTube and you find that Best Fight Picks channel, all the Half the Battle episodes are there for you to check out. So, yeah, got a lot of cool stuff coming up. Obviously, Robin Black and Patrick Wyman, we broke down the fights, and my interview with Beneil Dariush, that's coming out pretty damn soon, and you guys are going to like that a lot. And, Mateo, obrigado, hermano, prazer en conhecerlo.
Are you on Google Translate right now? I would assume so.
Nah, man. I know I got a little Portuguese in the back pocket.
Just a little bit. All right, Mateus. Let us know where we can find you on social media and anything coming up with your website. You are. I'll let you plug it, but you're the owner of Olympo MMA, so let us know where we can find that and anything else you write for. All your writing. Let us know where we can find it.
First of all, I want to thank you for the opportunity to come here finally in Downchnik. And after months talking with Nick, I finally did come here. It's always a pleasure. And I apologize to the fans if my English isn't good, but I'm trying. I'm working on that. And man, you can find me at Twitter and Instagram, like Matheus Costa MMA. Yeah, I will write at the comments. Relax. But my website is olympomma.com. I am a Brazilian journalist, and I'm working to change the sport in Brazil. So, like Nick, we are the new generation of MMA journalists, and it was a pleasure to meet Daniel too. He's a great guy. And man, I just want to come out lately here again. I really like this show. I really like Nick. He's a great guy, man. We turned into friends at Twitter, but man, I really appreciate tonight. It was a great show, and I thank you another time. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. Appreciate you coming on. Appreciate you taking the time. I know it's pretty late over there in Brazil. I want to say close to 3 a.m., correct?
Let's meet. Yes, yes, yes.
All right.
Almost 3 a.m.
Yeah,
But
for sure. Now, yeah, thanks for coming on, of course, and we'll definitely do it again. Whether or not Go Paul can't do it one time, Daniel Levy can't do it, you'll be back. Or you can, like, of course, you're always invited on to my podcast, my other podcast, MMA Junior Radio. And as
yes,
for me, you can follow me on Twitter at NickUFC. Check out my website, mmajr.co. Check out my weekly podcast, my other podcast I hosted with John King each and every week. It's called MMA Junior Radio. Find all previous episodes at mmajunior.co. This past week we had UFC Sao Paulo's Abel Trujillo and Prestige FC 1 winner George Davis on the show. George Davis back on the show, returned to the show, and two great interviews there. So check out the one with Trujillo for sure before he fights T-Bow on Saturday night. Um, and I should plug, like I mentioned earlier on, I'm running for BloodyElbow.com, and I had a piece out about Abel Trujillo from that interview I did on my podcast, basically saying he told me that he was more or less depressed and wasn't really training really at all during the layoff. He's been inactive so much lately, past couple of years, but he's ready to fight. He has been waiting to fight for a very long time. His career has really been plagued a lot by injuries and his opponents pulling out. So definitely interesting interview there and article. So go check that out, bloodyelbow.com. And I think that's about it. So with that,
Nick,
enjoy
Nick.
yeah.
Before we finish this, I gotta say one thing that will make you happy. Uh, we at Olimpo, we are working to make an English version of the website. We are a Portuguese website, but we wanna make a English version of the site. So all you guys could read and could follow our work here in Brazil. Like this week, I've talked with Patricio Pitbull. He said great things, and like he wants to face Will Brooks next, and everybody knows that. But and he also said that he wants to fight at Rising at the New Year's Eve. And one more thing, I don't know that, but that's a great thing. He talked to me that he wants to fight at even that bantamweight, featherweight, lightweight, or even at welterweight. He would fight anybody.
Jesus Christ, what about heavyweight?
Man.
Yeah, for sure. So OlympoMMA.com, soon to be in English, hopefully, so I can read it. And Daniel, I'm assuming you can read Portuguese just fine, so you make sure to keep on that Portuguese side of the website. Now, with that, enjoy the fights.